So Ian Garry's been talking that mess. I think he's been saying some things that are a little bit delusional. We also have plenty of new fight announcements, not massive fights, but I'm talking about really solid ones. That's right. One of the greatest fighters of all time is gracing the octagon once again. Chase Hooper is back, and he's going to be fighting the Jordan fucking Leavitt. He's going to be fighting Jordan Leavitt, which is a great matchup. Roman Kopylov, one of my favorite up-and-coming prospects in the middleweight division, is taking on another killer, another prospect in Anthony Hernandez. And we also have the return of Raul Rosas Jr. He's going to be taking on Cameron Simon's last victim, Terrence Mitchell, who actually has a grappling background, that has a wrestling background. That's going to make for an interesting fight for the youngest fighter in the UFC. I'm going to get to all of these things, guys. So let's just get into it right now. The first topic of discussion. Ian Garry seems to think that he's some kind of megastar. You know, I have no issue with Ian Garry being confident. I like Ian Garry, man. I like his confidence. I am a believer in his skill set as well. I think this guy does have potential to maybe be a future UFC champion, as long as he goes out there and proves that he has some grappling this weekend against the clinch fest Neil Magny. But he's been saying a lot of things that are just so ridiculous, and I just feel like he has no business getting away with it. Like, one of the things that Ian Garry's been saying is that he is carrying this card on his back, and that, you know, because Ireland has a time difference, nobody is waking up at 5 a.m. to watch Sean O'Malley and Aljamain Sterling.
You said earlier this week, I believe that I'm carrying this 292 card on my back, and that if it wasn't for me, this card would go down the drain. What do you say to those people who think you're crazy for saying that?
Who in good is waking up at 5 a.m. in the morning in Europe, or the rest of the world for that matter, to watch Aljamain Sterling and Sean O'Malley? They're waiting up for me. I can promise you that. They're waking up for me.
Bro, stop. Like, you're not that big of a star. How many followers does Ian Garry even have on Instagram? Because I guarantee you, any Irish MMA fans are more hyped for Aljo and Sean O'Malley than they are for Ian Garry versus the most boring fighter in UFC fucking history, in Neil Magny. 354,000 Instagram followers. I've got 87.7K. I'm almost up there with Ian Garry now. I'm just messing around, of course, but listen, guys. Ian Garry needs to chill the fuck out with these kinds of statements. You're not carrying the card at all. You went from having a really enticing matchup with Jeff Neal to just a status quo matchup to fill in a position and to keep you on the card. That's the least of what I'm here to clown Ian Garry about. The next thing that I want to say is there's this idea that, listen, Ian Garry thinks that because he's going to Boston, there's some massive contingency of Irish fans that are going to be marching down to Boston, shipping off to Boston to watch him fight, which is so fucking hysterical.
The Boston contingent is going to be out in full support. Full support. And when I walk out and I'm representing that tricolour, every single person that has that Irish heritage, that Irish connection that's in that building is going to lose their mind.
I just think it's hysterical how Ian Garry thinks Boston, the Green Clover, Boston, has all of these Irish people that are going to be marching down to the, knocking down the doors to watch Ian Garry. In the U.S., like, the people that are really repping Ireland, that are Irish, are people whose parents just came here from Ireland. This ain't the 30s. There are not many Irish people that are just coming to the U.S. these days. And if there are, they're going to very distinct neighborhoods in the U.S. I've been to some of these Irish neighborhoods in New York. I'm from New York. And we're talking like maybe 500-600 Irish people in these neighborhoods. And out of those 500-600, how many are actually MMA fans? How many keep up with the UFC and even know who Ian Garry is? What, like 20 max? So let's multiply that by 3 since we're in Boston. And you got 60, hungry Irish MMA fans. How many of them are actually going to be buying these overpriced tickets to show up at UFC 292? A huge contingency of Irish people that are going to be screaming at the chance to watch Neil Magny and Ian Garry fight. I can't imagine that many. So Ian Garry is thinking he's about to hear a roaring 500,000 Irishmen in the stands, giving him an ovation as soon as he walks out, when in reality, he's going to hear about 20 extra claps from the bleachers, from the nosebleeds. If anything, he's just going to hear more of Ray Longo screaming backstage as he walks out. Ray Longo's voice overshadowing all the Irish people in the stands. Hey, Marab, let's go, Aljo. You are not Conor McGregor. You are not making anyone fly overseas to watching you fight Neil Magny. If anything, the people that may have been willing to do that just canceled their flights the second you signed on the dotted line to fight Magny instead. He's in, modern day Boston. This is not as Irish as, Boston would be in the 60s where everyone's parent had just come off the boat. You know what I mean? In the 30s, back in the day when people were coming from Ireland. I feel like, Cheeto also, is rocking green and he's rocking the Clovers in Boston. And I get it. That's the vibe, bro. That's the Celtics colors. It's the fucking city colors. There are a lot of Irish people in Boston. But we're talking 2023, bro. And this is not a good thing. I wish that everyone with Irish heritage were to be like these ride or die Irish people, just putting on for their country, putting on for the motherland. No matter how many generations deep they've been in the U.S., I absolutely wish that was the case. That would be sick. Then I would be, more of an Irishman. You know what I mean? I'd be a little bit more Irish. But in the U.S., it's just sadly not like that. So I think Ian Garry is going to be a little bit disappointed when all of these, American, plain Jane, just simple American people, regular UFC fans. There's nothing wrong with being just American, bro. Like just people like me are going to be showing up, Ian Garry. You're not going to have like screaming Irish people with tomato red faces. That's not going to happen. All right. It's just going to be, your average American UFC fan showing up. Oh, this guy's Irish. Oh, that's pretty cool. Interesting. That's going to be it. If Ian Garry were to fight and main event in Ireland, 100% it would be packed. But he's not of the name value to shut down the Boston streets, to bring the Irish people out of their houses, to really get them all going. I just don't see it, man. And saying things like he's carrying the card. Bro, Sean O'Malley and Aljamain Sterling, any hardcore UFC fan has been waiting for a Sean O'Malley title fight to see what would happen for the last, 2 or 3 years, bro? This is a bigger fight than Ian Garry and Neil Magny. Come on. Don't be playing around. And also, the hardcore UFC fans in Ireland, they're not waking up to watch you and Magny. And you know what? They're going to be staying up if they're doing that, to watch the main event, of course. But they're staying up the whole night. So this idea that we have Irish people waking up at 5 a.m., your family members might be doing that. Your mom, your cousin, whoever. These people are going to be doing that because they don't really probably care about Sean O'Malley. But hardcore Irish MMA fans are staying up all the goddamn night to watch Andre Petrosky and the GOAT, Gerald Meerschaert. They're watching that fight as well. I just can't help myself but laugh when I hear Ian Garry say that there's going to be this whole army of Irish people just marching down to the stadium, all out there screaming for Ian Garry. He's probably got like 20 fans that reluctantly bought their ticket and thought about canceling everything, thought about selling the tickets as soon as Jeff Neal dropped out. He's probably got about 20 Irish people coming to watch him. This ain't Conor McGregor, bro. People would gladly root for you heavily. These Irish fans are probably more likely to throw themselves a fucking pizza party and have their boys over. They can all watch it together instead of buying these overpriced UFC 292 tickets. You know what I mean? These tickets are mad overpriced. The card went from a flip to a flop in the matter of a couple of weeks, bro. But let's just get on to the next piece of news. Yeah, Roman Kopylov and Anthony Hernandez. That is an amazing fight, an incredible fight. I'm actually starting to see the UFC put these prospects against each other a whole lot more. Like they're not just putting prospects in there with a bunch of old men these days. I'm actually liking it. I want to see these prospects battle it out. I don't have to want to wait until we see a potential Sandhagen and O'Malley matchup when both of them are going to be fighting for the title. You don't always need to do that. All right? It's okay if a prospect loses to another killer. And in this case, if Hernandez loses to Kopylov or if Kopylov loses to Hernandez, they can still be great because of how nasty they are with their skill sets. Kopylov, I'm just going to say this. He's one of the most impressive strikers I've watched at 185 pounds. Usually the 185 pounders, they're either guys that just rely on their power or, they're just mediocre as fuck. And we have a couple of good strikers here and there, like Whitaker, and we have someone like Adesanya. Of course, we had Pereira. There aren't that many good strikers. Jared Cannonier's all right. Kopylov is a Terminator because he's extremely fast. He's incredibly powerful. I think right now, he's a top 4 striker in that division. Adesanya, Whitaker, Cannonier, Kopylov. I would, and of course, you might throw in Dricus du Plessis with the funky junkie style. Kopylov's a top 5 striker. He could win this matchup. He's going to have to knock out Anthony Hernandez cold. Because if he doesn't do that, Hernandez is one of the most terrifying fighters in the UFC. If you don't know, you're about to find out, because I think he is going to win this matchup. If you're a Kopylov guy, a Roman Kopylov guy, all of a sudden, which I'm actually rooting for him in this matchup, I think we're about to be a little bit disappointed, because Anthony Hernandez is who people say Colby Covington actually is when he's not. All right, Colby Covington, yeah, he gasses people out, he smothers them a little bit. Anthony Hernandez does just that, but because he's a middleweight and he actually packs a punch and he actually hurts people and has a submission game, he brutally finishes people. If you've watched his career up until now, and I've doubted him, but every time I watch him fight, he reminds me of like a woodland critter from South Park. You know, a guy that his nickname is Fluffy, for goodness sake. A guy that looks very unassuming. He doesn't look dangerous. He looks like a little bit of a pussy, a little bit of a soy boy, to be honest. And he gets in the cage. He usually gets his ass kicked for a few minutes. His cardio, his pace is so relentless. People break in front of him, and all of a sudden, the second round will hit, and he's picking people up, slamming them on their head, beating the shit out of people with big ground and pound shots, looking for submissions, just mauling people in the most violent fashion. And he doesn't tire out, never gets tired. His wrestling is amazing, and he's picking these big middleweights up and slamming them with big athletic throws. And I just can't see anyone handling him that's not one of the literal best ranked guys right now. I feel like you're going to have to be something special. Now, Kopylov is something special on the feet, but I haven't really seen his grappling get tested all that much. Now, he moved to Dagestan a few years ago, and I'm 100% sure that was to work on his takedown defense, to work on his grappling. So if he has good takedown defense, that could be a saving grace. But it's like, how long can the takedown defense hold up? Because Anthony Hernandez never, ever gets tired. He has a good chin. We usually talk about guys with good chins. Well, a lot of the people with the best cardio in the UFC, they have great chins, okay? Or at least they have good survivability because they're in shape and they can take a shot and get right back up. You know, usually people get KO'd when they're getting tired. Anthony Hernandez never gets tired. And Kopylov's way to beat him, in my opinion, is going to be to knock him out with a crazy head kick or something early. He has that ability, but I think Hernandez is about to drown him. Never, ever gets tired. Some of the best cardio I've ever seen in the heavier weight classes. And like, unlike someone like Merab Dvalishvili or Colby Covington, he really hurts people and damages them once he has them tired. No matter who wins, no matter who loses, I think both of these guys are going to crack the top 10 at some point. And you know what? I'm just excited that we have these up-and-coming middleweights that have these unique, really impressive skill sets that are not just your typical run-of-the-mill, well-rounded, mediocre everywhere middleweights. I think within the next few years, the middleweight division is going to be top 5 best divisions again. So I think it's going to surpass welterweight in a little bit. But anyway, let's get on to the next fight. Jordan Leavitt and Chase Hooper. And this is a perfect matchup, man. Jordan Leavitt, he doesn't really seem that dangerous on the feet. This is not an intimidating guy. Now, he's coming off of a TKO. I think it was his first ever TKO in the UFC. He seemed to be really hype. He shocked himself when he got it. And Chase Hooper, now that he's moved up to 55, if you guys don't remember his last performance, it was over one of the New England cartel guys. I forget the name of him. But Chase Hooper set a record for the most significant strikes landed ever in a 3-round lightweight fight, which was amazing. And the one takeaway that I had from that fight was, number one, Chase Hooper's cardio is ridiculous. He can push a high pace. And I did have another takeaway, which was Chase Hooper's chin is rejuvenated at 155 pounds. And if you looked at his physique on his last fight, it looked much more filled out, and he's gotten bigger. And I've seen him posting a lot of him training in the gym, lifting weights on his Instagram. He's getting bigger for the weight class. He's filling out. He's already tall. He's got a great chin at this point. And he, I believe, is a black belt in jiu-jitsu too. And he's like a legitimately good black belt. He not only was beating his last opponent up on the feet, but he was out grappling him. He was threatening submissions. This is what Jordan Leavitt does best. Jordan Leavitt is a guy that can go out there and grapple. You know, he can impose his will too, and he can pick you up. He can slam you. I think he had a slam finish earlier on in his UFC career as well. So this is a good matchup. I cannot wait for this fight. I'm honestly more hyped for this than I am for Cheeto and Pedro Munoz. And that's just a testament to Cheeto and Pedro Munoz being a kind of a boring matchup, in my opinion. I don't think that's going to be a great fight, just with Pedro Munoz's style and Cheeto's low output. This is going to be a good fight because both guys are great grapplers, and I'm going to be picking Chase Hooper. I think he's got a great chin now at 155. He has an amazing pace, high output. His striking has improved just a little bit. I think moving up in weight really helped him out, and when it comes to the grappling, I think he'll be able to match Jordan Leavitt down there as well. So I'm looking forward to that. And of course, Raul Rosas Jr. is back as well. He'll be taking on Terrence Mitchell. Terrence Mitchell just got finished in the first round by Cameron Simon. And I was saying going into the Cameron Simon fight, right, Dricus du Plessis, training partner, another prospect that I'm very high on in the bantamweight division, that Cameron Simon's a good grappler, but Terrence Mitchell has a wrestling background. This guy used to wrestle in Alaska, and I know he was on the Alaskan FC scene, and that's not the best MMA promotion at all, but either way, he looks super young, Terrence Mitchell. He's in his 30s. He has a lot of experience, a lot of grappling experience. Raul Rosas Jr. just gassed out in front of Christian Rodriguez, right? He had that amazing first-round sub over Jay Perrin. He got a lot of hype from that, right? I think he was 18 years old when he got the finish. And now he's coming off of a loss. And he flew to Kyrgyzstan. I think he has like a former coach, a wrestling coach that's from Kyrgyzstan. And he's been getting lots of good rounds in with the grappling there. So this is going to be a great matchup because Terrence Mitchell can wrestle, he can grapple. Raul Rosas Jr.'s hands, his striking isn't all there yet. You know what I mean? It looked okay on the Dana White Contender Series, but when we saw it against Christian Rodriguez, it left a lot to be desired, so I hope he's been improving his striking. Terrence Mitchell just got finished by a TKO, and that was against Cameron Simon, who is actually a very good striker for the bantamweight division already, even though he's a young prospect. He has hands, bro. He's dangerous. He has power in his hands, too. Raul Rosas doesn't. So this is going to be interesting because it might just be two grapplers. And Raul Rosas Jr. doesn't have the same experience as Terrence Mitchell. So this is not like a free win for him. This is not just another easy opponent that's going to be out there to just get submitted and get his back taken. So I'm really looking forward to this fight. I think that I might go with Raul Rosas Jr. because, again, Terrence Mitchell getting finished in the first round isn't a great look. Just because you have a wrestling background doesn't mean I'm going to pick you against Raul Rosas Jr. anyway. I'll still have to look into his past. I guess I'll try to find some tape. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know who you guys think is going to win in these potential matchups. What do you think about the Ian Garry situation? And until next time.
What's up, guys? It's Lucas Tracy MMA, and I'm wondering if you're trying to look like Yoel Romero. Well, if you don't have his genetics, that's impossible, but I could at least help you get halfway there with my ultimate lifting program, and if you're a beginner, my novice lifting program. These are programs that I've used my 9 years of experience in the gym to make so that you can put on as much muscle as possible in as little amount of time as possible. And it'll also give you a variety of workouts so that you never get tired of the gym. So if you're interested, click the link in my description. And for a discount, use code MMA for 30% off.